The gunshot echoed through the warehouse as Hana pressed herself against the cold metal shelving, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Blood soaked through Jinwoo's white shirt, but his gun never wavered as he stood between her and the men closing in. "Stay behind me," he growled, his voice steady despite the crimson spreading across his chest. "I told you I'd protect you, no matter what it costs." 3 days ago, she was just a girl working in a gift shop. Now she was trapped in a burning building with Korea's most dangerous man taking bullets for her. If you want to know how a simple act of kindness turned into a fight for survival, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments if you'd help a stranger who seemed lost. Because sometimes one choice changes everything. The morning had started like any other Tuesday. Hana adjusted the display of silk scarves near the entrance of Blossoms and Threads, the upscale boutique where she'd worked for 2 years. Sunlight streamed through the windows, catching the delicate crystal figurines on the center shelf. She hummed softly, organizing a collection of handcrafted jewelry boxes when the door chimed. The man who entered didn't belong in her quiet world. He was tall, with sharp features that seemed carved from stone, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His dark hair was styled back, revealing intense eyes that swept the shop with calculated precision. But what caught her attention was the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw clenched as he scanned the items like he was searching for something he couldn't name. "Can I help you find anything?" Hana asked, stepping forward with her practiced customer service smile. The man's gaze snapped to her, and for a moment, something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or recognition, though she was certain they'd never met. She would have remembered. "I need a gift," he said, his voice low and smooth, like dark honey. "For someone important." "Of course." Hana gestured toward the jewelry section. "What's the occasion?" "Birthday, anniversary, apology." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Does there need to be an occasion to show someone they matter?" The question hung in the air, more vulnerable than his stoic appearance suggested. Hana found herself genuinely curious about this stranger and whoever he was shopping for. "No," she said softly. "Sometimes the best gifts are the unexpected ones. Tell me about her. What is she like?" "She's strong," he began, moving closer to examine a display of necklaces. "Stronger than she knows. She's been through things that would break most people, but she keeps going. She deserves something that reminds her of her own resilience." Hana's heart warmed at the obvious affection in his words. "Your girlfriend is lucky." "My sister," he corrected, and the raw emotion that crossed his face made Hana's breath catch. "She's all I have left." The weight of those words settled between them. Hana moved toward a locked cabinet, retrieving a delicate silver bracelet adorned with a small lotus charm. In Korean culture, the lotus represents purity and rebirth. It grows in muddy water but blooms beautifully above the surface. No matter what darkness surrounds it, it finds the light. She held the bracelet up, watching it catch the sun. This piece was handmade by a local artist. Each petal is individually carved. It's one of a kind, just like your sister sounds. The man took the bracelet, his fingers gentle as he examined it. When he looked at Hana, something in his eyes had softened. "It's perfect. You understood exactly what I needed." "I just listened," Hana said, wrapping the bracelet in tissue paper. "Most people already know what they're looking for. They just need someone to help them see it." As she rang up the purchase, she noticed a tattoo peeking from beneath his shirt collar. The edge of what looked like a wolf or a dragon, rendered in intricate detail. Her curiosity spiked, but she focused on the transaction. "Thank you," he said, accepting the elegant gift bag. He hesitated at the door, turning back. "What's her name?" "Hana." "Hana," he repeated, like he was memorizing it. "Thank you for your kindness today. It's rarer than you might think." Then he was gone, leaving only the faint scent of expensive cologne and the strange feeling that something significant had just happened, though Hana couldn't explain what. She didn't expect to see him again. But 2 days later, he returned. This time, he didn't browse. He walked straight to the counter where Hana was restocking earrings, and she startled at his sudden appearance. "You're back," she said, her heart inexplicably racing. Did your sister love the bracelet? She cried, he admitted, and that ghost of a smile returned. She hasn't cried in years. You gave me that gift, Hana. The way he said her name sent an unexpected shiver through her. I'm glad I could help. I wanted to thank you properly. He slid a business card across the counter. Have dinner with me? Hana stared at the elegant card, embossed with just a name, Kim Jinwoo, and a phone number. No company, no title. I don't usually go to dinner with customers. I'm not asking as a customer. His eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her knees weak. I'm asking because in 2 brief conversations, you've shown me more genuine compassion than I've experienced in years. I'd like to know you better. Every logical part of Hana's brain screamed that this was a bad idea. Mystery men in expensive suits who gave no information about themselves were red flags wrapped in designer labels. But something about Jinwoo pulled at her. Maybe it was the loneliness she recognized in his eyes, or the way he looked at her like she was someone worth knowing, not just a service worker helping him make a purchase. One dinner, she heard herself say. Somewhere public. The smile that broke across his face transformed him entirely, revealing a warmth she hadn't expected. Anywhere you want. They met at a traditional Korean restaurant in Insadong, nestled between art galleries and tea houses. Hana had chosen it deliberately, a place busy enough to feel safe, but intimate enough for conversation. She'd changed 3 times before settling on a simple navy dress, cursing herself for caring so much about impressing someone who was probably just being polite. But when she arrived and saw Jinwoo waiting outside, wearing dark jeans and a black sweater instead of his usual suit, looking somehow both more approachable and more dangerously attractive, she was glad she'd made the effort. You look beautiful, he said simply, and the sincerity in his voice made her blush. Inside, over grilled meat and soju, the conversation flowed easier than Hana had anticipated. Jinwoo asked about her life, her dreams, her favorite books and movies. He laughed at her stories about difficult customers and nodded thoughtfully when she talked about wanting to open her own boutique someday. You'd be successful, he said. You have a gift for reading people, understanding what they need. What about you? Hana asked, emboldened by the soju warming her veins. What do you do? A shadow crossed his face. I manage family business interests. Import, export, investments. It's complicated and honestly quite boring. It was the first time that night he'd seemed guarded, and Hana sensed a wall going up. She changed the subject, but filed the reaction away. As the night deepened, Jinwoo walked her to her bus stop despite her protests. I had a wonderful time, Hana said, surprised to find she meant it completely. Thank you for dinner. Can I see you again? Jinwoo asked, and there was something almost vulnerable in the question. I'd like that, Hana admitted. Over the next 2 weeks, Jinwoo became a constant presence in her life. He'd appear at the shop near closing time, walking her home. They'd grab street food from vendors and eat while wandering through neighborhoods, talking about everything and nothing. He took her to a jazz club where live music filled the smoky air, and she taught him how to make proper hotteok when they stumbled upon a cooking class. Each moment felt stolen from reality, perfect and separate from their normal lives. Jinwoo never talked about his work, and Hana noticed he never answered calls when they were together, silencing his phone with barely a glance. But there were signs she didn't want to see. The way people stepped aside when they walked together, something like fear or respect in their eyes. The expensive car that always seemed to be nearby, but that Jinwoo never acknowledged. The faint scars she glimpsed on his knuckles, too deliberate to be accidental. And then there was Minjun. Hana's co-worker had pulled her aside one afternoon, his face serious. That guy you've been seeing. Kim Jinwoo. Do you know anything about him? He's private about his work, Hana said defensively. But he's kind and thoughtful. Hana, my cousin works in finance. He says the Kim family is connected to some dangerous people. Real dangerous. Please be careful. You're being paranoid, Hana insisted, but Minjun's warning planted seeds of doubt that grew despite her efforts to ignore them. The cracks began to show a few days later. Hana was locking up the shop when she noticed a black SUV parked across the street, tinted windows hiding whoever sat inside. It had been there when she arrived that morning. As she started walking, The vehicle slowly pulled forward, maintaining its distance, but clearly following. Her heart hammered. She pulled out her phone, texting Jinwoo. "I think someone's following me." His response was immediate. "Where are you? Don't move." Within minutes, another car appeared, sleek and black. Jinwoo emerged, his expression thunderous as he spotted the SUV. He strode across the street, and Hana watched as the driver's window rolled down. She couldn't hear the conversation, but Jinwoo's body language radiated threat. After a tense moment, the SUV sped away. What was that about? Hana demanded when Jinwoo returned. "Who were those people?" "Business competitors," Jinwoo said, but his jaw was tight. "They've been trying to pressure my family. You're not involved. I'll make sure they know that." "Jinwoo, what exactly is your family's business?" Hana asked, fear threading through her voice. "Because normal import-export companies don't have people followed." He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. "You need to trust me." "How can I trust you when you won't tell me the truth?" Pain flashed across his face. "Because the truth might make you leave, and I can't." He stopped himself, running a hand through his hair. "Please, Hana. Give me a little more time. I promise I'll explain everything. Just not here, not now." Against her better judgment, Hana nodded. But that night, she couldn't sleep, Minjun's warning echoing in her mind. 2 days later, everything shattered. Hana was organizing inventory when Sua walked into the shop. Jinwoo's sister was striking, with her brother's same intense eyes but softer features. She wore the lotus bracelet on her wrist. "You're Hana," Sua said, not as a question. "I wanted to meet the woman who's brought light back into my brother's eyes." They sat at a nearby cafe, and Sua ordered them tea. "Jinwoo told me you helped him choose this," she said, touching the bracelet. "He said you understood what he needed without him having to explain. That's rare for someone in his position." "His position?" Hana prompted carefully. Sua's expression grew somber. "He hasn't told you." "Of course he hasn't." She sighed. "Our family hasn't had an easy life, Hana. We lost our parents when I was 14, and Jinwoo was 19. Our uncle took us in, but his world is complicated. Dangerous. Jinwoo did what he had to do to protect me, to survive." "What do you mean, dangerous?" Hana's hands trembled around her teacup. "I think you should ask my brother that. But I wanted you to know that whatever you learn about him, whatever darkness you discover, at his core, he's good. He's been my protector, my family, even when that meant sacrificing his own happiness. And seeing him smile because of you, seeing him hope again, that's precious." Before Hana could respond, Sua's phone buzzed. Her face paled as she read the message. "I have to go. Be careful, Hana. And if my brother pushes you away trying to protect you, don't let him. He needs you more than he knows." That night, Hana couldn't stop replaying the conversation. She was Googling Jinwoo's name when her apartment buzzer rang. Through the intercom, Jinwoo's voice was urgent. "Let me in, please." When she opened the door, he looked wrecked, his usually perfect appearance disheveled. "We need to talk." "Yes, we do," Hana said, crossing her arms. "Who are you really, Jinwoo?" He stepped inside, closing the door. For a long moment, he just looked at her, as if memorizing her face. Then he spoke, his voice low and heavy. "My full name is Kim Jinwoo, but in certain circles, I'm known as the Silver Wolf. I run the Eastern Territories of Seoul's underground network. What started as my uncle's organization became mine when I proved more strategic, more ruthless. I control everything from protection services to information brokerage. I'm not a good man by most standards, Hana. I've done things that would horrify you." The world tilted. Hana gripped the back of her couch for support. "You're a criminal. I operate in gray areas. I have rules. No drugs, no trafficking, nothing that destroys innocent lives. But yes, what I do exists outside the law." He took a careful step toward her. "When I walked into your shop, I was exhausted. Exhausted from the violence, the constant threat, the loneliness of never being able to trust anyone. And then you smiled at me like I was just a man buying a gift, not a monster. You listened. You cared. I couldn't stay away." Tears burned Hana's eyes. You lied to me. I omitted. There's a difference. Every moment we spent together, every word I said about how I feel about you, that was real. You're the only real thing in my life, Hana. I can't, her voice broke. I can't be part of that world. I can't be with someone who lives in danger and violence. I know, Jinwoo whispered. I know and I understand. That's why I came to tell you the truth and to say goodbye. But I needed you to know that meeting you, knowing you, it changed me. You made me want to be better than what I am. He moved to leave, and Hana's heart screamed in protest even as her mind told her to let him go. Jinwoo, wait. He turned, hope naked on his face. I need time, she said. I need to think about all of this. But don't just disappear. Please. He nodded once, then left, and Hana collapsed onto her couch, sobbing for the man she'd fallen for and the dangerous truth she'd discovered. For 3 days, they didn't speak. Hana went to work in a daze, Min-jun watching her with concerned eyes. She jumped at every shadow, newly aware of how little she understood about the city's hidden layers. On the 4th day, Sua called. My brother is miserable. He's barely sleeping, barely eating. I haven't seen him this devastated since our parents died. He's a criminal, Sua, Hana said weakly. He's a man trying to survive in a world that tried to destroy him. He's my brother who held me when I had nightmares, who paid for my education by making deals with devils, who built an empire just to make sure we'd never be vulnerable again. He's complex and flawed, but he's also capable of tremendous love. The question is, are you? The call ended, leaving Hana staring at her phone. That night, she did what she should have done immediately. She researched. What she found was shocking but also illuminating. The Kim organization had a reputation for being one of the most honorable in the criminal underworld. They were known for protecting local businesses from more violent gangs, for maintaining order without unnecessary bloodshed. Jinwoo himself was considered almost mythical. Dangerous but fair, ruthless with enemies, but protective of those under his care. It didn't make it right, but it wasn't as simple as good versus evil. Hana was still wrestling with her decision when her world exploded. She was closing the shop alone, Min-jun having left early for family dinner when 2 men in suits walked in just before she could lock the door. Mississippi Hana Park? The taller one asked. We're closed, Hana said, fear prickling her spine. We just need a moment of your time. Chairman Ryu would like to speak with you. I don't know any Chairman Ryu. The man smiled, but it was cold and predatory. He's Kim Jinwoo's uncle. Surely you know him. Hana's blood turned to ice. I don't want any trouble. Please leave. Neither do we, the second man said, moving to block the door. But the chairman insists. You can come willingly, or we can make it difficult. Your choice. Her phone was in her purse behind the counter. She'd never reach it in time. What does he want with me? You'll find out soon enough. They drove her to an industrial area on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place where screams would go unheard. Hana's mind raced through escape scenarios, but there were none. She was marched into a warehouse where an older man sat at a makeshift desk. Reviewing papers like this was a corporate office rather than a kidnapping. Mississippi Park, Chairman Ryu said, looking up. He had Jinwoo's sharp features, but none of his warmth. Forgive the dramatic introduction, but my nephew has been making problematic decisions lately. Decisions influenced by you. I haven't seen Jinwoo in days, Hana said, trying to keep her voice steady. Whatever your issue with him, I'm not involved. But you are. You see, Jinwoo has been distracted, soft. He's been questioning my methods, suggesting we move toward legitimate business. This weakness started when he met you. Ryu stood, circling her slowly. I built this organization from nothing. I saved him and his sister when they had nowhere else to go. And this is how he repays me? By falling for some shop girl and forgetting his place. You're wrong about him, Hana said. If he's questioning things, it's because he's smart enough to know there might be a better way. Ryu's laugh was harsh. Spirit. I see why he likes you. But you're a liability, Mississippi Park. As long as you exist, Jinwoo will be compromised. So I'm going to use you to teach him a valuable lesson about the cost of his sentimentality. Terror flooded through her. You're going to kill me, eventually. But first, we're going to see if the Great Silver Wolf will choose love or power when forced to decide. Ryu's men dragged her to a small office in the back of the warehouse, zip-tying her to a chair. One of them made a call, and Hana heard Jinwoo's name mentioned. They were telling him where she was, that if he wanted her alive, he'd come alone. It was a trap. Obviously a trap. But Hana knew, with crushing certainty, that Jinwoo would come anyway. Time became meaningless. Hana sat in the dark, listening to the men outside preparing weapons, laughing about how the Silver Wolf was about to learn his final lesson. She thought about her life, her dreams of opening a boutique, her parents who'd be devastated to lose their only daughter. She thought about Jinwoo, remembering the way he'd looked at her like she was his salvation. She'd been so scared of his dangerous world that she'd pushed him away. Now, facing death, she realized the truth. She'd fallen in love with him. With his gentleness beneath the hardness, his fierce protectiveness, the way he'd been vulnerable only with her. And she'd never get to tell him. The warehouse doors exploded open. Gunfire erupted immediately, and Hana screamed as bullets ricocheted off metal. Through the small window of her prison, she saw Jinwoo move through the warehouse like a predator, taking down men with brutal efficiency. He wasn't alone. A team of his own people had come despite his uncle's demands, but Jinwoo was at the front, unstoppable. The door to her room burst open, and there he was, blood on his shirt, fury and fear warring in his eyes. Hana. He cut through her restraints, pulling her up. We need to move. Now. But as they ran toward the exit, Chairman Ryu appeared, flanked by more men, guns raised. Jinwoo immediately pushed Hana behind him, his own weapon trained on his uncle. You just couldn't let it go, Ryu said, almost sadly. You had so much potential, Jinwoo. You could have ruled this entire city. But you threw it away for her. You made it a choice, Jinwoo replied, his voice deadly calm. Between the organization and her. So, I choose her. I'll always choose her. Then you're a fool. Everything happened at once. Ryu fired, and Jinwoo twisted, the bullet meant for Hana's head tearing into his shoulder instead. He returned fire even as he fell, and Hana watched in horror as his shot found its mark, dropping his uncle. Jinwoo's team swarmed in, securing the warehouse. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had finally called them. But all Hana saw was Jinwoo on the ground, blood pooling beneath him. No, 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 she sobbed, dropping beside him, pressing her hands against the wound. Stay with me. Please, Jinwoo, stay with me. His eyes focused on her face, and incredibly, he smiled. You called me Jinwoo. Not that criminal, or the Silver Wolf. Just my name. You idiot, she cried. You were supposed to save yourself, not take the bullet for me. I told you, he whispered, his hand finding hers despite his weakening grip. I'd protect you no matter what it cost. I meant it. Paramedics arrived, pulling Hana away as they worked on Jinwoo. She watched them load him into an ambulance, her hands still covered in his blood. A kind police officer wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, asking questions she barely heard. At the hospital, Sua found her in the waiting room, and they clung to each other, two women who loved the same complicated man. He's in surgery, a doctor finally told them hours later. The bullet missed major arteries, but there was significant tissue damage. The next few hours are critical. Those hours stretched into the longest night of Hana's life. She paced the waiting room, praying to God she wasn't sure she believed in, making bargains she had no power to keep. Dawn was breaking when the surgeon emerged, exhausted but smiling. He's going to be fine. He's strong, and he fought hard. He's asking for someone named Hana. Hana nearly collapsed with relief. They led her into his room, where Jinwoo lay pale and bandaged, but blessedly alive. His eyes opened when she approached, and the emotion in them made her chest ache. You came, he rasped. Of course I came. You jumped in front of a bullet for me, you impossible man. She took his hand carefully. Why did you do that? Because I love you, Jinwoo said simply. I've loved you since you handed me that lotus bracelet and talked about finding light in darkness. You're my light, Hana. I'd die before I let it go out. Tears streamed down her face. I love you too. I was so scared to admit it, scared of what your life meant. But none of that matters. I love you, and I almost lost you before I could say it. He pulled her down gently, and she was careful of his injuries as she rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, steady, alive, hers. What happens now? She asked. With your uncle, the organization, all of it? Ryu survived barely. He'll face charges for kidnapping and attempted murder. The organization is fractured. Most of my people are loyal to me, but I'm done, Hana. I'm done with that life. Sua and I have been planning an exit strategy for months, legitimate business ventures we can transition into. This was just the push I needed to finally make the break. It won't be easy, Hana warned. Nothing worth having is, Jinwoo replied. But I have you now. That makes everything possible. Recovery was slow. The bullet had done more damage than the initial surgery revealed, requiring follow-up procedures. But Hana was there through it all, taking time off work to stay by his side. Sua became a close friend, the three of them forming a tight unit as they navigated the aftermath. True to his word, Jinwoo began dismantling his criminal empire. It was dangerous work, extracting himself from decades of entanglements, but he did it methodically with the same strategic brilliance that had made him successful in the underworld. Some of his former associates understood. Others became enemies. But Jinwoo had powerful friends in law enforcement who'd been waiting for someone like him to turn legitimate, and they helped smooth the transition in exchange for information on more dangerous operations. 6 months later, on a spring evening when cherry blossoms painted the city pink, Jinwoo took Hana to a small restaurant in Hongdae. I have something for you, he said, pulling out a velvet box. Inside were 2 matching pendants, lotus flowers rendered in silver. I had these made. Yours. He fastened one around her neck, and mine. He put on the other, to remind us both that we bloomed despite the mud. Together. Hana touched the pendant, tears in her eyes. It's perfect. There's more. Jinwoo pulled out another set of papers. I bought a building in Gangnam. The ground floor is retail space. I thought maybe it could be your boutique if you still want it. Our legitimate business. Our fresh start. Jinwoo, she breathed. That's too much. It's not even close to enough, he said, taking her hands. You saved me, Hana. You loved me when I didn't deserve it, stood by me through the worst, and gave me a reason to become better. Let me give you your dream in return. So Hana quit her job at Blossoms and Threads and opened Lotus and Light, a boutique that combined her eye for beauty with ethical sourcing and fair labor practices. Jinwoo's business acumen and her creative vision made them a formidable team. Sua joined them, managing the finances, the 3 of them building something clean and hopeful from the ashes of the past. There were hard days. Former enemies didn't forget easily, and there were threats, close calls, moments when the past reached out to pull them back. But they faced it together, always together. On the 1-year anniversary of the night Hana almost died, they stood on the rooftop of their building, looking out over the city where they'd both been lost and found. Do you ever regret it? Jinwoo asked. Choosing this life, choosing me? Hana turned to face him, touching the lotus pendant that never left her neck. Every choice has a cost. But loving you? That's the easiest choice I've ever made. You're my person, Jinwoo. In the darkness or the light, you're mine. He kissed her then, soft and deep and full of promise. Below them, Seoul glittered with possibility, a city of countless stories and secret hearts. They were just one story among millions, but it was theirs. Hard won, messy, real. And that made it beautiful. Did you love Hana and Jinwoo's story? The way one simple act of kindness transformed 2 broken people into something whole? Let me know in the comments what you would have done in Hana's position. Would you have given love a chance or played it safe? And if you want more stories about finding love in unexpected places, about darkness and redemption, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support means everything. Like this video if you believe everyone deserves a second chance at happiness, even those who've walked through shadows to find the light. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is open your heart, but sometimes it's the only thing that can save you. Thanks for watching. See you in the next.